Hi, I'm Greg Denny. As most of you know, part of my story, I grew up in a broken home. I was out on my own at an early age, living in some terrible places. I remember just living in these horrible, slummy neighborhoods in terrible living conditions, surrounded by people who were going nowhere, doing terrible things, and just this darkness, this depression, the desperation, just feeling stuck and frustrated and miserable and seeing misery all around me. And these people were not happy and they weren't making choices that were brightening up their future. And I just remember desperately wanting to know how to be successful, how to create a life that's happy and phenomenal, right? You design an epic life. And so I've been studying success principles and happiness for over 20 years. And I've had the privilege for about 17 years to be teaching and speaking and mentoring and coaching in many nations around the world, helping thousands of people transform their lives, to making better decisions every day about their future, about who they're becoming, and stop playing the victim. But what I want to share today is going to be a bit of a rant. So here's your warning, right? It's because I feel so strongly about this. And you're going to see, one of my weaknesses. But I want to make it crystal clear. People with a bright future, like excellent people, successful people, they get pride out of the way. They get their ego out of the way. They're willing and open to accept new truth, to face the facts, to get kicked in the teeth a little bit by the truth and realize the things they've believed and the things they've been doing are wrong, right? And that's a hard pill to swallow. When you come up to the truth and the truth punches you in the face and you realize all these years I've been wrong. I've had these limiting beliefs. I've had these terrible habits. And to swallow your pride and to take your ego and get it out of the way so it's not impeding your progress, right? Those people have a bright future because they're willing to change. They're willing to take correction, right? To be reproved and let somebody come in and say, no, you've been wrong. Let me help you do it right. On the other side, people with a mediocre future, people who are going to be unsuccessful in life, they justify, they rationalize, they excuse themselves, and you offer a solution to their problems, and they're exempt from that. That somehow this eternal law of progress doesn't apply to them. That somehow they're the exception, they're the exemption, that all these things that have helped thousands and millions of people improve their lives somehow just doesn't apply to them. And so they make their poor families suffer along with all their personal issues, and they whine and they complain, and they're always going around negative Nancy, complaining and crying about all their problems. And when you offer a solution, oh no, they act like you've just offered them some toolkit for ostrich grooming that has nothing to do with them and is completely irrelevant. And so you're seeing my rant come out. Because I've learned along the way what works. I mean, these are proven principles and practices. These are strategies that have been around for centuries, and they just work. But the truth is, you and I have to be humble enough to accept them, embrace them, and apply them. And unsuccessful, mediocre people will always excuse themselves from actually applying it. And they'll come up with some reason why they can't do it. Well, they're the exception. The truth is, successful people will just accept it. And even though it's hard to hear and hard to do, they do it anyways. Even though it hurts, even though it's uncomfortable, even though change tests us and tries us and stretches us. And it's hard and humiliating sometimes to admit that you were wrong and move forward. But that's the key to success. That's the key to a happy, progressive life. To seek out the truth voraciously, and when we find it, apply it in our lives at whatever cost. I'm going to share one of my greatest weaknesses, and I hope you'll be forgiving. People who reject and resist a solution to their problems while they're whining and complain about it, it just infuriates me. I just get so frustrated. And I don't know why I really care, because their negative choices are going to affect their lives and not negatively affect mine. But I guess my frustration is because I was there and I changed. You know, I grew up in those rough circumstances. I had a whole list of people and circumstances that I blamed for my problems. You know, I was shy, I was timid, I was depressed, I was miserable. And I walked around blaming others. I played the victim perfectly. It wasn't my fault. I had every excuse in the book. You know, if I was going to grow up and have a terrible marriage and be a horrible parent, it was because that's what I learned from my parents. And you know, it wasn't, of course, it wasn't the fast food that it wasn't my fault that I was eating all that fast food. You know, it's the people who make it. That's why I was out of shape and unhealthy. It was their fault, right? And none of it was mine. It was all everybody else's fault. It was the government. It was my boss. And you know, I just went around crossing my fingers hoping that I had a good day, because then if I had a good day and I was hoping things went well, then I could be happy, right? If others lived according to all these rules I had in my head, and if not, it was always their fault that I was unhappy and miserable. Well, you know as well as I do, that's just a bunch of hogwash. We will be happy when we choose to be happy. We'll have a fulfilling life when we live a fulfilling life. We'll have what we want when we go out and make it happen. And because we're not victims, we get to choose. Life is what you and I make of it. And so I get frustrated when there's an answer, there's a solution, and the people resist it, and they excuse themselves, and they continue to whine and complain and blame and rationalize and justify when the answer to their problems is in front of their face. Well, guess what? I had to get knocked upside the head with what I like to call the truncheon of truth. A truncheon's a short, thick club that police officers used to carry. And I had to get whacked upside the head with the truth, with the absolute fact that you and I are in control of exactly how our lives turn out and who we become. I had to face the music. I had to realize that if anything was going to get better in my life, I had to get better first. And that I was not a victim, that I was an agent, and that I was free to choose, and all the consequences around me would be a direct result of my choices. Of course, I love sweet food and fast food and good food and wanted to eat huge portions of it and blame someone else. But I had to realize I'm accountable for what goes in my mouth. Of course I wanted to sleep in and not exercise and, you know, take it easy all the time. But I realized sleeping in and taking it easy and always seeking entertainment brings you that reward. Nothing, a mediocre existence. Of course I wanted to, you know, sit around and, you know, watch TV and you know, not work when I didn't feel like it, right? But that's the point. Most things in life get done by people who don't feel like doing them. That's what separates the mediocrity from excellence. Successful people, they don't feel like doing it either, but they do it anyways. Of course it's easier to give your kids movies and TV and video games instead of actually being a parent. But what's the end result of that? Of course it's easy and convenient to blame others and to blame circumstances for my own patheticness, for my own mediocrity. But that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't empower anyone. It makes you weaker. But I know better, and so do you. And so the first step is you have to be willing to accept that you are entirely accountable for your life, and that you'll embrace and accept and apply the truth no matter how hard it hurts. Now, many of us have been conditioned to be offended by hard truth. You know, when you get in your face and you say things as they really are. We've kind of been conditioned to be touchy and to easily offended. We've got to accept the truth. You need to get to the point where you say, fat is fat. Obese is obese. Neurotic behavior is neurotic behavior. And that's what it is, and it's a problem. We need to fix it. If you're OCD, that's an obsessive compulsive disorder, and it needs to be fixed. It's not healthy. It's not happy. And so we got to face the music. We got to take a good hard look in the mirror and do a self-examination and say, am I fat? And if I'm fat, I've got to do something about it. Am I behaving neurotic? I've got to fix that and accept that truth. Not label yourself or go into some identity crisis, but realize, hey, I'm out of shape. I need to fix it. Maybe I'm neglecting my marriage or my parenting, and come to grips with it. The reality of, hey, I'm not stepping it up as a mother or father. I need to be better. And then really go after it and hold yourself accountable. I have friends that really overweight, and you talk to them and they're like, yeah, man, I'm going after it. I'm going to exercise. I just got to train. I'm going to eat better, and I'm going to lose all this weight. And then years pass, 8, 9, 10 years, and you meet up with them again, and they're even more overweight. And what are they talking about? Yeah, I'm getting a trainer. I'm working out. I'm eating better. Well, where are the results? I mean, maybe that's a good, hard question to ask yourself. Where are the results? Prove it. We need to stop talking and start doing. And so you and I, we know where we're weak. We know where we're struggling in life. And we got to face it. You see, I have a bright future because I examine myself constantly, and I ask others to examine me. And I find out where I'm weak, where I'm falling short. Where I've been weighed in the balance and I'm on the scale, and realize, no, I'm dropping the ball. And I'm willing to look at my life, every area, and make improvements. And that's why my future is bright. That's why I'm excited, and that's why my life is fulfilling, and that's why I'm going somewhere. And so those of us who choose to do that will take that steep, painful hill up toward greatness, and there's going to be a cost, but it's going to be so worth it. So my challenge for you today is to change, right? Just own it. Just face the music. If you have problems, fix them. Stop brushing them under the rug. Stop putting on the little front, the little show that everything's good, and stop hiding the problems. Identify them and fix them. If you're struggling with some emotional or psychological struggles, I mean, if you've got some issues, face them and fix them. Stop, blaming your dad because he was depressed, or your mom because she dealt with anxiety, and that's why you deal with it too. Fix it. Alter your mental habits. I mean, so many of the problems we have in our life and we carry with us throughout our lives are preventable. They're fixable. And I'm not making light of these things. I'm saying identify it and fix it. Blaming and excusing and rationalizing won't help us. It doesn't empower you. So find your problem and fix it, right? And you might say, well, Greg, you just don't understand. Well, it's easy for you to say, well, you just don't know what I'm going through. You don't know my problems. The truth is, I've been there, right? I've been fettered by fears. I've been shackled by doubts. I've dealt with depression and darkness. I've dealt with failure and horrible habits and surrounded by circumstances that are terrible. I've been there. I've dealt with insecurity and doubt, right? And fear and anxiety and desperation. I've been in that dark pit. I know what it's like. I know the loneliness and the bitterness and the hurt. And I know how to play the victim perfectly because I did it for years. And so what I'm telling you is don't stay there. Find the problem and fix it. You can start today. And this is my challenge to you. Begin today, right now, to become a new you. Happier, healthier, right? Find your problems, fix them. Accept the truth. Take it in, and then do something about it. And yeah, it's a hard road. Often humiliating, often painful, often uncertain. uncomfortable, but you can do it. Here's to your new self. Better, happier, healthier. Reach upward.